Okay, so I got to admit, when we first talked about diving into ports, I thought, really? How exciting can that be?
You and me both.
But the more I've been digging into it, the more fascinating this whole world is. For this deep dive, you specifically asked to understand ports beyond just boats and shipping and
You're right, the bigger picture.
Yeah, the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And what's cool is we found this document, actually. It was focused on podcasts about port operations.
Oh, wow. Podcasts about ports.
Yeah, it's kind of meta, right?
Okay, it is.
But anyway, it goes deep into ownership and the nitty-gritty of how these things work.
Interesting.
So, are you ready to get our hands dirty?
Absolutely. Let's dive in.
Okay, so first things first. When I think port, I picture it like, ships coming and going.
Right. That's the image we all have.
Big cranes, stacks of those colorful containers.
Exactly. But what most people don't realize is the sheer scale and complexity of what's happening behind the scenes. Ports are actually the linchpins of global trade.
Okay, linchpins. Break that down for me.
Sure. So it's not just about ship stocking, it's about everything that happens to those goods once they're on land.
Okay.
We're talking about massive cargo handling operations, logistics, customs, the whole 9 yards.
Whoa.
And all of this is happening with incredible efficiency, thanks to, some pretty amazing technology.
Okay, like what?
Well, think automated cranes that can move containers with pinpoint accuracy.
Oh, wow.
Sophisticated conveyor systems that whisk goods from ships to warehouses.
Uh-huh.
And even, in some cases, robots that are handling tasks that used to require human labor.
So we're talking, futuristic stuff here.
It really is. And it all has to work seamlessly because any delay can have ripple effects throughout the global supply chain.
Oh, I bet.
Think about it. That new phone you just ordered. Or those shoes you've had your eye on.
Yeah.
Chances are they pass the report at some point in their journey, from factory to your doorstep.
Wow, and I never even, thought twice about it. It's like, out of sight, out of mind,
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
But this document, it highlighted something I found super interesting. Ports aren't just about moving stuff around. They're like economic engines in their own right.
Absolutely.
It talked about this thing called industrial clustering.
Oh, yeah.
And basically, ports can attract certain industries because, they provide the raw materials needed for production, and then they also help export those finished goods.
It's a win-win situation. The port provides infrastructure and access to global markets.
Uh-huh.
And the industries benefit from lower transportation costs and, a ready-made supply chain.
Okay, that makes sense. The document actually had this great example about the port of Rotterdam. Apparently, it's a major player in the European petrochemical industry.
Right, Rotterdam is huge.
Yeah, I mean, they handle all these raw materials like oil and gas that are used to make plastics, fertilizers, all sorts of stuff.
It's amazing the volume of goods that flow through that port. And it's not just petrochemicals. They're involved in everything from food processing to automotive manufacturing.
Wow. So we're talking about a port that's shaping industries and influencing, global markets. It's kind of mind-blowing.
It is, and it highlights how crucial ports are to the global economy. If a major port experiences disruptions, it can literally send shockwaves through the world.
Like dominoes.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was just reading an article about how the pandemic caused all these supply chain issues.
Right.
And I bet ports were right at the center of that storm.
Oh, absolutely. Ports had to adapt to lockdowns, labor shortages, and all sorts of unforeseen challenges.
I can only imagine. And speaking of things I never really thought about, the document also mentioned the role of ports in passenger travel.
Yeah, that's often overlooked.
Cruise ships. Duh.
Exactly. Cruise ship terminals are a major part of many ports, and they contribute significantly to the tourism industry.
I mean, my family, we love cruises.
Right. And for a lot of destinations, cruise tourism is a vital source of revenue.
And then there are ferries, too. Those are essential for connecting communities, especially in coastal areas.
They play a vital role in transportation, and they also help boost regional economies.
Okay, so ports are these multifaceted things. They're like economic hubs, transportation hubs, tourist destinations, and, wait for it,
What's that?
they're also going green.
Yes.
I have to say, this was the biggest surprise for me. I mean, I always thought of ports as, kind of industrial, maybe not so eco-friendly.
I get it. But the industry is changing. There's a growing awareness of the need to minimize environmental impact.
So what are they doing?
Well, for starters, many ports are implementing shore power technology. This allows ships to plug into the electrical grid while they're docked so they don't have to run their engines.
Oh, that's smart. So less air pollution.
Exactly. It reduces emissions and noise pollution, which is especially important in densely populated areas.
Makes sense. The document also talked about things like monitoring water quality and managing ballast water, which I had no idea was even a thing.
Yeah, ballast water is water that ships take on board to help with stability,
Oh, okay.
but it can also contain invasive species that can harm local ecosystems when it's discharged.
Whoa, I never thought about that.
So ports are now required to have systems for treating ballast water to prevent the spread of these species.
That's pretty cool. And I read about some ports that are even going a step further by restoring habitats and, trying to offset their environmental impact.
It's encouraging to see, and it shows that the industry is taking sustainability seriously.
I mean, they're literally at the intersection of land and sea, so they kind of had to be stewards of both.
Precisely.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, but there's one more thing I want to touch on. The document kept emphasizing how ports are really just one piece of a much larger transportation puzzle.
Right.
It's not like ships just, magically appear at the port. They're part of this intricate network of, roads, railways, waterways. It's almost like,
A circulatory system.
yeah, like a circulatory system.
Well, I like that analogy. Ports are the heart, pumping goods and resources throughout the global economy.
And if that heart stops beating, well, things get messy fast.
Exactly.
Wow, so ports are, way more important than I ever realized.
I know, right? And that's why it's so fascinating to think about how they'll continue to evolve in the future.
Oh, yeah. So with technology advancing at, warp speed and all this emphasis on sustainability,
Yeah.
what do you think we'll see? I mean, will there be fully automated ports?
It's definitely possible. We're already seeing a lot of automation in cargo handling.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, it's conceivable that entire ports could become fully automated at some point.
Okay, that's kind of wild to think about. And what about, those floating cities I've been hearing about? Could those be built around ports?
That's a fascinating idea. I mean, if we're running out of space on land, why not expand our cities onto the water?
Right, and ports would be the perfect place to start with all their infrastructure and access to resources.
It's definitely food for thought. And it highlights how the role of ports might continue to change and adapt in response to, global trends and challenges.
Okay, so I gotta admit, I'm starting to see ports in a whole new light now.
Mm-hmm.
They're not just about ships and containers.
Not at all.
They're like these vital hubs that connect the world, drive economies, and even play a role in shaping our future.
They truly are. And as you continue your research, think about this. What other unexpected roles might ports play in the years to come? It's an exciting time for the industry, and I'm eager to see what innovations emerge.
Well, thanks to this deep dive, I know I'll never look at a port the same way again. And for our listeners, keep those questions coming, because we are always down for a fascinating deep dive.
Absolutely.
See you next time.
See you then.